Hey, how's it going, everyone? Great. So my name is Sam Melden. I'm running for wait, that's a different speech. I'm a bit in the habit of giving that one. But I am really excited to be with you tonight because I'm going to give a totally different talk than what I've been preparing for the last several months. But not to stray too far from politics, I have a little treat for you. Just a little kind of extra. It's not about human connection in a digital world, but it's just so good I couldn't pass it up. So who enjoyed the eclipse today? Anyone? That means that whether you like it or not, you have something in common with our president. Who's seen this photo? Yeah. Okay, so who hadn't seen this photo until right now? Yes! Okay, yeah, come on. No, get in here, because this is real. This is real. This is 2:43 p.m. at the White House, Eastern Time. You have one rule follower. You have one person who is clearly above every law ever created, who said, I am ready to look straight into the sun. Can we just really acknowledge how wonderful this photo is? Whether you like or don't like our president, that's not the point. The point is that this happened today. Like in a real place, a guy walked out and was like, solar eclipse time, let's do it. Sorry, it's too good to pass up. I wanted to share that with you. Like I said, a little extra, a little bonus, a little treat before we have dinner. I want to talk about human connection. So let's get into it. This is a photo similar to a photo that I think a lot of people have seen. How many people have seen the photo where there's all these people on a train and they're all looking at the newspaper? Right? And often it's paired with this graphic over top that says, oh, and social media is making us so less personable, right? And so the joke is meant to be that, I mean, long before this technology that we all have in our pockets, there was the same kind of thing happening, right? People were reading the newspaper and they weren't engaging with each other on their way into work, and it's like no different. What's interesting to me, while I want to get to that place and talk about the evolution of technology and how that relates to communication and how we communicate with each other, how we build connection with one another, while that's interesting and this gets us there, I also think that this photo is really interesting because it brings into view the need for nuance and the ability to translate what we're seeing. A good friend of mine, Jordan Justice, who actually gave a talk here about bikes a few weeks ago, I think, he has a quote that he loves from a rabbi, Abraham Joshua Heschel. Heschel said, the task in our world is not to see what we know, but to know what we see. That's really, really good. I could stop right there and you'd get the value that you came for. But so like that's the task. And sometimes we see these things on the internet, and as Jordan talked about, opinions becoming facts. Like we can think that, oh, like that's just the same thing. It's just now we have phones and before it had newspaper. The difference is that here, what was happening? It was probably the same publication, reporting on the same set of facts. And probably what happened was you were reading the thing and you went, oh, can you believe that? So there was some sort of communal experience happening here, which is not always the same thing as the extremely fragmented and curated newsfeed that we all have built for ourselves, right? We've all built these like sound chambers and these echo chambers where we decide every single bit of information that we get. So that's not the same thing. So I just want to say there's a little bit of nuance. I'm also not saying tonight, it's an interesting thing to do in a talk, say all the things you're not saying before you say this thing you are saying. But I'm also not saying tonight that I think all of this technology is just going to be wonderful and everything's good and everything's rainbows and puppies, because I don't believe that. I think that there are some times where technology gets in the way of the experience we're supposed to have. So even in my family, my wife and I have 3 children. They're 7, 5, and 18 months. We are going to set a rule, and I don't know how we're going to do this because it's only speeding up. But we're going to set a rule that when we have dinner, there's a little basket for the phones, right? Go put your phone in the basket, because right now, we're trying to look each other in the eyeballs. There is something about human connection. There's something about breaking bread together. There's something about spilling water on the table and it gets all over someone else and they have to deal with not punching their sister in the face. Like there's something about that that's really, really important. So I'm not saying tonight that all technology is just wonderful and hunky-dory and everything's going to be great. I think there are some times where we need to go to the concert or go to the comedy show or go to the thing and not have our phone up all the time, right? So Dave Chappelle, I love this about Dave Chappelle. It's like the strictest rule. You know about this? He has like the strictest rule, no cell phones. Like, bring your cell phone out and I will steal it from you and break it in half and probably like pay to replace it later because I'm Dave Chappelle, I can do whatever I want. So like, I think that there are some spaces where that's really important. But let's get to where I want to go. So we've been dealing with this for a long time. This is a guy named Gutenberg. Who's heard of Gutenberg? Everyone, hopefully. So this guy invented the printing press. And here's what I think is so interesting about the printing press. One of the many sets, and this is common stuff, a lot of people probably know more about this than I do, but I'm just going to dive in at one point in this story. One of the many sets of kind of issues that this brought up in his time, 1490-ish, was that back then, people translating and making copies of the Bible, there were scribes, often monks, and it was their spiritual practice to write out the scriptures, right? And so when this happened, his invention, I mean, it changed the game. And I think sometimes in the face of technological innovation and change, we can maybe like jump a little too far in our critique of what that means. And I want to read a quote for you because I think it's so interesting. There was someone who was not too thrilled with the printing press, and he said, "He who ceases from zeal for writing because of printing is no true lover of the scriptures." Isn't that amazing? So there's someone in the face of this technological innovation, this kind of evolution of the way that we interact with each other and the way we communicate, there was someone who in the face of that invention said, yeah, but if you use that, you don't love the thing you used to love. Does that seem like a bit of a stretch to anyone else? Right? So the reason I want to bring this up as an example is I think that sometimes we can go a little bit too far with the way that we understand and the way that we think about technology. The bottom line is technology, whoop, no, not too far, don't do that. Go back, that's a baby. There we go. The bottom line is that technology, this is maybe the biggest thing I want to say tonight, is I believe technology is amoral, right? Like time and money and any sort of other tool, a hammer. I want to say a gun, but I have so many issues with guns, it's kind of crazy to even say that. But like anything, for the most part, that is something to be used by us is amoral, right? It can be used as much for good as it can for bad. It can be used to bring blessing to your community or to bring curse, right? It can be used to build more inclusion and love and acceptance, or it can just be used to build a taller tower. But all of this technology is here, and it's something that we are supposed to use. So let's talk about human connection. I think that really what we're looking for in any sort of use of technology is for human connection. Now, we're talking about technology, and often some of us were probably a lot of people in the room are thinking about social media and the internet. I talked about the printing press. I already set up this talk to kind of be directed in the space of communication to a lot of people. But let's just back off of that a little bit. I think that for the most part, the way we engage with technology today is that we're looking for some sort of human connection. And I want to just submit to you a couple ideas that I think connection is best found around these three things. Maybe four, I might have five. Values, affinity, progress, and I'll stop there. So first, values, right? I think that all of this technology that we have really puts us in an incredible space to order our life relative to our values. All of us in this room have different things that we value. There are certain things that we really care about. There are certain things that we don't care about. Jordan's talking about gardening, and a lot of you are going, that's interesting, but I have a lot in my yard with a bunch of trees, and I don't really care about gardening because I'm going to go to the farmer's market because I value going and buying something from a farmer first. Other people are like, trees be damned, I'm cutting them all down. Like, let's grow gardens, right? Moving to the country and rural farm. So we organize our life based on our values. And I think that we leverage technology based on the same thing. The second one was affinity. Sometimes all we're doing is looking for where the person who lives downtown who has a dog, where's that guy? Because I'm a guy who lives downtown and has a dog, and I just want to be around people like me, right? So we use communication and we use technology to try to organize ourselves around affinity. Think about that. That is also, I might suggest, what's happening here, right? For the most part, whether it's technology or just being forward thinking or trying to understand innovation or entrepreneurship, for the most part, we're in a space right now where we're trying to surround ourselves with like-minded people. I think that's what I'm watching here, and I've only been to one or two of these things. So I think values, affinity, and I think the other one that is really interesting, and it's probably emerging more now than ever, is that we're leveraging technology, we're leveraging amoral tools to organize around progress. So many people, whether in super technological spaces like we talked about with Tesla and, man, cars, and I just can't even think about that. But when you think about technology, often some of those conversations are around progress, right? But how many other ways are we leveraging technology and we're thinking about how to use this digital world that we're in to work toward some progress? I think at the heart of a lot of what we're seeing happen with our use of technology is we're sitting here and we're saying, where we are right now is not good enough. We have to get people and energy and effort together to push to that next space. That is the definition of progress. I want to say something else before I go to the next two, because the next two are my favorite. I think fundamentally that technology does not change who we are. It just reveals what we care about. So technology does not inherently change who we are. Our use of it simply reveals something about us. Does anyone have tattoos in here? Anyone? A few tattoos. Whether you believe this or not, and whether it's politically correct to say it or not, I have a couple tattoos. And when I got a first few of the tattoos that I have, someone said, "Oh, that's so interesting, I can't believe it." Another person said to me, "You know, this is what someone said to me, okay? They said, I've always thought about tattoos as not something that you put on yourself, but removing something that was there to more fully reveal who you already are." That image has stuck with me. And I think that for the most part, our use of technology, the way that we engage with the tools in the physical space around us is almost like this archaeological dig where we're kind of dusting away. We're trying to fully express ourselves. We're trying to dig into what we care about most. And it doesn't necessarily change us. It just reveals who we are. Again, not to go too political, but often it's my experience. And I think it was so interesting when the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, at last year's DNC said, she was raving about her husband, gushing, you might say, which, you know, if you're married to the president, you might do that. And she said something that I love. She said, the presidency does not change a man, it reveals a man, right? I'm going to avoid saying anything about our current president right now. But what I am going to say is I think the same thing about technology, right? I think that technology is often this thing that kind of, the way that we engage with it reveals what we care about most. The next two things I want to say that how we try to connect, right? Human connection in a digital world. The next one is gratitude. I want to challenge all of you to think about how you can use technology to not only communicate, but connect with someone in a very, very deep way and express your gratitude. It's so interesting to me that we have this unbelievable device. For the most part, a lot of people have access to this type of technology, everyone in this room certainly, where we can at scale connect with almost anyone we want to, and then we have to decide for what purpose. And I just want to challenge you to try to decide to use technology to express gratitude. To simply say to someone, "Hey Drew, I was at your restaurant and I really, really loved that meal. You're incredible. Thank you so much for making it. Thank you so much for giving your life to this restaurant with 14 seats and then making this huge leap to go to 45, which is kind of crazy, right? Like, thank you for that." Like, if we leverage technology for gratitude, I think it's one of the best uses of the thing, of the tool, of this amoral thing that we engage with. And the last one I would say is that when we're trying to connect, make human connection in a digital world, I would simply say that at the center of all of it is love. And I'm not trying to be cheesy, I'm being honest. It's love. Do you use the tool with love, or do you use the tool with something else, right? And I'm personally of the opinion that the opposite of love is about 100 different things, right? And that is not to say that there are so many other things more powerful than love. I think it just takes that many words to describe what love really is, right? We know what love is, but there's no one real way to describe it. It's this kind of immeasurable, immovable thing. It just kind of is flowing all around us, but we know when we tap into it what it feels like. And we know all the other things, all the other ways where we're not engaging with it. But I will promise you that all of these amoral tools that I'm talking about, they are able to be leveraged and to be used for love. This morning, I became an uncle again. Thank you very much. That's very good. This is Clayton Jr. My brother-in-law's name is Clayton, creatively named Clayton Jr. And my sister, my older sister, this is her second child, and they live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And yesterday I was able to call her, and I just gave her a little pep talk because she was about to go have a baby. This morning this is one of about 55 pictures that I've already gotten of this child. But I got them and I was able to show my kids. So this morning before I left for work, my 3 children were able to see a picture of their new nephew who lives in mid-southern Florida. And probably in the next few days, I'll get to FaceTime and hear this human being make the first echoes of what their life is going to sound like forever. Right? Technology is this amoral thing that we decide how we get to use it. And this might just be, my little tiny baby nephew, but I'm convinced of 2 things. I'm convinced, first of all, that you can leverage all of these tools to engage with love and gratitude, organize around your values, work for progress, find people who you share affinity with every single day of your life. And I would say one more thing too, that this is not actually just about technology. The idea of using these tools for love is actually the trick to everything we do, right? Everything I just said about technology and how to make human connection in a digital world, it's true of cooking, it's true of entrepreneurship, it's true of politics, it's true of therapy, it's true of teaching, it's true of all of our professions. And I think the more that we push into that, the deeper the connections will be. So thank you so much.
Thank you.